Hello and welcome to Kapital, the community of holders and seekers of African capital. I'm your host, JS, and you guys already know before we start, we begin with the word of affirmation, our guiding principle, the raison d'etre of this guild, the Cop Douglas production function, guys. On our way to make Africa great again is through economic might and strength. And in order for us to achieve that goal, we have to produce more in an efficient way. All right. So the topic of today's talk is this article on the IMF in Ghana. As I promised you guys, I was curious about the IMF, and this articles actually fell à point, as we can say. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. Ghana's new president seeks to overhaul the 3 billion IMF deal. John Mahama wants renegotiation, but analysts doubt room for maneuver after 2022 debt default. The picture of Accra, Anu Adeoye. As always, guys, we're trying to understand who is writing the article. Anu Adeoye is a West Africa correspondent for the Financial Times, and he's based in Lagos. Ghana's president will ask a panel of experts to chart a new path for the country's economy. As he seeks changes to the IMF agreement credited with bringing financial stability to the West African country 3 years after its default. We're going to pause here for a minute, guys, and actually talk about a little bit about the IMF, right? So the IMF, it's a global institution that aims to promote international and monetary cooperation, financial stability, and economic growth. Also, the reduction of poverty. It was established after World War Two. I was about to say World War Three. We're not there yet, guys, but maybe soon. I don't want to say soon, guys. I mean, I digress. So it was established at the Bretton Woods Conference and started operation in 1945. So the key functions of the IMF are economic surveillance. They monitors global and national economies to provide policy advice and early warnings of financial crisis. The other functions the other function is lending to countries in need. It provides financial assistance to countries facing balance of payments problems and to stabilize their economies. And the final function is the capacity development. They offer technical assistance and training to help countries improve economic management and governance. So I was also actually there's a difference between the IMF and the World Bank. The World Bank. So the IMF focuses on short-term financial stability and crisis management. So IMF is here really for the short term, and the World Bank focuses on long-term economic development and poverty reduction. That's a little nuance between the two. So one is short-term, the IMF for financial stability, and the World Bank is more long-term for economic development and poverty reduction. So John Mahama, which is the new president of Ghana, will lead a 2-day national economic dialogue in the capital, Accra, from March 3rd, bringing together participants from the private sector, academia, think tanks, and civil society. The session follows his pledge upon taking power in December to reverse years of economic drift, which resulted in Ghana's 2022 debt default and its 18th IMF program since independence. So as we've seen, the IMF is there for the short term, to provide liquidity in the short term. So if you've been in the program 18 times in 60 years, that's not a good look, guys. High on Mahama's agenda will be a review of a 3-year, 3 billion IMF program agreed in 2023 under the previous administration. IMF officials have visited oops, IMF officials visited Ghana this month to begin talks with the new government. Okay, we're going to pause here for a minute, guys, because the question of this article is whether or not the IMF is an angel or a vulture. So in this case, we can definitely say is an angel because it provides an emergency financial lifeline by providing bailout and liquidity to countries facing severe economic crisis. It also promotes economic stabilization by restoring confidence and stabilizing exchange rates, by reducing inflation and managing debt. It also helps nations negotiate debt relief with creditors to prevent further default. And the final point, promoting the IMF as an angel, is the technical assistance by offering policy advice, training, and capacity building for better economic governance and decision making. We all know that those elements are very key for our countries in Africa, the policy advice, the training, the capacity development. So the IMF, from that standpoint, huge for our development. We were not at the table when this agreement was drawn up, Mahama told Bloomberg television on the sidelines of this month's Munich Security Conference. He has sought a renegotiation with the IMF, telling Reuters in December that what we're saying is that within the program, it should be possible to make some adjustments to suit reality and to suit his political reality, because as he said, we were not at the table when this agreement was drawn up, which in my opinion is a mistake. When a country takes a decision like that, it should be by, the Congress or some other officials, not only the political leaders, the president of the country, because it's not you or your party or your government that is signing, it's the entire country. So when the new president comes in, he doesn't even know what type of agreement, what type of data that you use to sign those deals. He just has to deal with the consequences of your actions, which for me is not as efficient as it could be. The president, okay, looking sharp, Mr. Mahama. Yet John Asafu Ajayi, senior fellow at the Accra-based African Center for Economic Transformation think tank, said Mahama had no choice. Obviously, he had no choice but to continue with the fiscal discipline imposed by the IMF due to the conditions attached to the bailout. And that will move us to the second part of the question: is the IMF a vulture? They can very much so be vultures, because when you deal with the IMF, they impose harsh austerity measures. We've seen what happened to Greece. The country receiving IMF aid must often implement painful budget cuts, leading to job losses, reduced social spending, and economic hardship. You also have loss of sovereignty because capital is coming from abroad. From abroad, governments must follow strict IMF policies. Example, we have tax hikes, subsidy costs, and that limits the freedom to make independent economic decisions. Now you're making the decision not to improve the life of your citizens, but to appease your creditors. The third element is the debt trap. Almost death, but yeah, it's debt. The loan can increase long-term dependency to external financing or to debt instead of focusing on income improvement. You're focusing on debt, and that will can increase long-term dependency rather than solving underlying economic issues. And the final element is favoring creditors over citizens. So this is basically the conclusion. That's why it's at the bottom here of the downward trend while dealing with the IMF. IMF policies, they often prioritize repaying international lenders over investing in social programs. Guys, we've seen what happened in Greece in 2000 from 2020 to 2018. It was abysmal. It was bleak, to say the least. The IMF imposed austerity that led to high unemployment, that led to economic stagnation and to public protest. They were like strike almost every week in Greece when the IMF after the IMF left. Ooh, vulture can definitely say that. These include keeping government spending in check, raising state revenue, and halting central bank lending to the government. So basically, they were printing money, guys. Not some good decision making here. Printing money to reimburse debt. That's not a good look. They've said they want to review the agreement, but I don't think they have many. They have many levers to pull. Obviously, they don't. They have no levers to pull. Instead, unless if they can produce more, right? If you can produce more, you have more income, debt servicing doesn't become an issue. It becomes a no issue at that time. Ghana's finance minister, oh, where are we? Okay. Analysts said Mahama, who was also Ghana's president from 2012 to 2017, will want to work out a deal on debt restructuring. Ghana's bilateral debt payment halted in 2022 are set to resume this year, next year. So, my God, oh my God. So they in default. They've been in default for 2 years, for going on 3, and you want to do business with us again. Actually, that led me to the questioning of why, how did they get into this situation, right? I was a little bit curious to know why led Ghana into this, dire strait. And those are the elements that I found that led to the crisis. So you have first debt accumulation. So debt accumulation, actually, it's unsustainable. It was unsustainable because Ghana public debt escalated due to extensive borrowing for infrastructure projects and other expenditures, leading to a debt to GDP ratio that became unmanageable. The second element is the fiscal mismanagement, with weak fiscal discipline that resulted in budget deficits and inefficient public spending, exacerbating the nation's debt burden. The third element is banking instability. Between 2017 and 2020, Ghana's banking sector faced significant turmoil, with several banks collapsing due to insolvency and poor governance. This crisis undermined financial stability and investor confidence. And guys, we've seen in our last talk that financial infrastructure and the stability of the banking system is primordial, is paramount for any economy to strive and continue to develop. So when you have banking instability, you're gonna experience flight of capital, but it's gonna fly away from your country and not come back. The fourth point is external shock. So we all know global economic downturns with the war in Ukraine, the fluctuations in commodity prices, and the COVID-19 pandemic adversely affected Ghana's export revenues and economic growth, further straining its debt repayment capacity. So you're making less income to service your debt. The spiral continued. You're just in a spiral. You borrow more to service the previous debt, and that becomes a pyramid or Ponzi scheme. The final element was actually internal pressures or the boiling point. It was actually political and social pressures with economic hardships. It led to social unrest and political challenges, complicating the implementation of necessary but potentially unpopular economic reforms. So when you're dealing with IMF, a voucher, they want to get paid. They don't care how you do it. Uh, stop paying, I don't know, stop paying teachers, done. You need to pay the money back. Unfortunately, that's how it goes when you're not independent, at least financially, which is actually the only independence in this world. If you're not financially independent, you're just not independent. Ghana's finance minister, Kassiel Atoforson, Kassiel, okay, is set to introduce many tax cuts in his budget next month to promote growth, even as the country faces pressure to improve its tax intake. Ghana has a tax to GDP ratio of 13.8%, below the African average of nearly 17%. Wow, 17% tax to GDP. I'm curious which countries are actually reaching that 70%. If we remove the big guys like South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and so forth. 17%, that's high for countries where, the census is not even as accurate to know the amount of people that you have in a country, let alone collecting taxes properly. But anyway, I digress. The IMF declined to comment. Of course, they're going to decline. But in its most recent review of Ghana's program, the fund called on the country to enhance domestic revenue mobilization and streamline primary expenditure. So basically, get more money, spend less. Basically, all the care guys, they want to get paid. They were there when you needed most. They were the only organization or the only entity willing to lend you money when you've defaulted. You know, you haven't been paying, you haven't been servicing your debt for 3 to 4 years. They're gonna impose their term. One way to increase state revenue will be to better enforce taxes, such as the property levy that has been haphazardly collected, said James Zanzi, senior country economist at the IGC Ghana think tank. The work we've done shows that with a little effort, collection of property taxes can increase between 90 and 100% within a year, he said. Okay, that's fair. Collect more taxes, guys. And property taxes are the easiest way to begin. Ghana's inflation rate, which reached a 2 decade peak of 54% inflation rate in Ghana. Oh my God, Ghanaian, how you guys surviving? How you guys doing back in Ghana, man? Pray for you, my brothers and sisters. 54% inflation rate in 2022. That's unbelievable. I seen slow to 23%. Oh my God. That's halved to 23%. Is this Zimbabwe? We're talking about Ghana? Wow. I'm shocked. Although this still far exceeds the central bank target. Duh, the target is 3%. You guys are 23%. Come on, man. What are we talking about? You guys are 8 times what the bracket or the target should be. 8 times the target. Wow. Pray for you, Ghana. GDP is forecast to grow at 4.4% this year. That's not a lot. According to the IMF, an improvement on the 3.1% in 2024 as Ghana emerges from its worst economic crisis in a generation. Ooh, I feel for you, my brothers and sisters in Ghana. But Ghana's business remain worried about the depreciation of the local currency, the high cost of borrowing, which stands at about 40%. God damn, can you imagine a 40% loan? Oh my God. Oh my God. No wonder you have a 54% inflation rate when you borrow at 40%. So basically, the economy is at a standstill. There's nothing going on. It's just stagnation. No capital to do anything. With 40%, the availability of money to invest and to develop the country, it's not there. That's why you rely on foreign debt and then the debt trap, right? Right? Austerity measures, you collect more taxes, less economic growth, borrow to survive, continue to borrow to survive because austerity measures, it ends here, favoring creditors over citizens. And now you have social unrest, you have strikes all over the place. At the sprawling Abosi Okai, Ghana's largest automobile parts market, traders say their reliance on imports had made the currency swing particularly painful. Of course, when we rely on imports, oh my God, guys, that's exactly what this community is about, right? We shouldn't be relying on import. We should be relying on creating more wealth by producing more, right? The output, we need more output. Those parts, they need to come from Ghana or the neighboring country, South Africa, not South Africa. South Africa is not neighbor to Ghana. My bad, guys. Togo, Ivory Coast, all those guys. You need to pull the resources and the skills to be able to be independent, guys. I truly believe that we can get there, and this is my mission. This is our mission. You and I in this community to get there. We are holders and seekers of African capital. We shouldn't be feel defeated. We should have faith in the future that we are able, that we have the capacity to reach the wealth, that people are laughing to us about, laughing on our face. I know, guys, I'm pissed when I see stuff like that. The agent we work with charges in dollars. That the agent, that means the foreigner. Oh my God. I have to remain calm, guys. The the agent we work with charges in dollars, and that means we have to sell at a higher cost. Say Kwabena Debra, an autobot traders in his empty shop, as he admitted business had slowed down. Of course, with 54% increase inflation rate, I'm going to take the public transit. I'm not driving my car if my car breaks down. Forget about that. 54% more. Oof. We're going to find we're going to look for other solutions to get around the city. We pass it on to the customer and they are not buying as they used to. Duh, what do you expect? A Western diplomat in Accra said the mood of the country has lifted. Of course, a Western diplomat, so it's probably part of the financial syndicate that lend you the money at the high cost. So this guy is probably profiting uh, from your hardship. Mood in the country has lifted since the election, providing Mahama with a window of opportunity to put austerity measures since, people, the mood is high. So, they used to say the best time to ask, I don't know, your parents for something is when they're in good mood. When your mom is happy, then you go, oh, mom, I need to go to this party. She'll be like, oh, yes, go. So they need that. They need the country to be in a good mood so that they'll be like, oh, no more, we reduce the pension, we reduce salaries. People are like, "Oh, you're too happy to realize what's going on." Yet the president still faced a challenge in avoiding disappointed voters. Clement Boateng, another auto parts dealer and vice president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, is a lot of auto parts dealers in Ghana. Wow, I've seen I've seen some customization that they make on they will take like a 2002 car and make it like a 2024 cars. So those guys, that's what I mean, guys. We have skills. If we're able to do that, that means we have the skills to actually scale it and make it a good business where you guys are not producing the parts. You already know how to use it. Use them. You can modify your 2020 car and make it a 2024. That means you have the skill necessary and required to create those parts. My pledge is to streamline taxes, but one that there were still too many costs being levied. If you go to the harbor, there are 22 fees. Oh my God, guys, how are we gonna do business when there are 22 fees that you're supposed to pay before your goods come out? 22 fees is too much. But what is Mahama going to do? You know, the IMF, they want their money back. They're already telling you the austerity measures. You need to improve your tax collection. So they are obligated to increase the fees to 22 because they need a tax revenue. They need a strong tax base. They need new revenue, new avenues for revenues. We complained to the previous government that the cost of doing business is too high in Ghana, but nobody listened to us. Of course, nobody listened to us because the people that you should all actually go complain to are in London, they are in New York, they are in Frankfurt, they are in Shanghai. Those are the people holding actually the country or your future in their hands, not those presidents. There could be like four presidents in the row. None of them will listen to you guys because the power has shifted from domestic to foreign. And we talked about it. Loss of sovereignty. You guys are not sovereign anymore. You are at the mercies of foreign capital. It's unfortunate, but guys, my blood is boiling right now. But this is the reality. That's why our mission should be to get richer, guys, by creating more. That's our only salvation. That's all we have right now is find ways to create more in an efficient way by allocating our capital and our labor with you know uh, productivity improvement to be able to get away from this trap and be finally independent and great again because we are great people. We are the original Homo sapiens. All right, we come at the end of the article. Very pissed a little bit, as a fellow African for my Ghanaian brothers to see the situation that they are in. But we are here for solution, and we start by talking about it in this community. That's why we're here. That's what we're here for, basically. All right, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.